Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be starting a new series of videos in which I review your work and your portfolio. This is the very first review that I post online outside of my courses, and I want to thank Leandro Videverrigain, here you can see his portfolio, for offering himself to be dissected under my eye. Leandro is a sculptor from Argentina, the country that I come from. I currently lives in Spain, and he has been asking several questions regarding his work, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to give him feedback and to also share the feedback to all the people that want to see how I would dissect his work. His work is actually great. This piece is very close to finish, but there are small things that may create more compelling and solid piece. Yesterday I was telling Leandro that when you are almost finishing a piece, maybe 80%, you are actually half the way there, because the remaining 20%, it's kind of the hard part of the piece. You can have a very solid piece, a very solid sculpt, but that 20%, it's what going to differentiate it from a regular or mediocre piece from a masterwork. So the devil is in the details, so you have to be careful with certain things. And fortunately, I have developed the eye throughout many years of sculpting and working with several artists to not only identify things that could be better in a piece, but also things that are a recurring problem in many of the sculpts, things that come up in all the work. So that's something that we will be dissecting. It's actually not an original character. This is actually Onslaught from Marvel. I didn't know this character existed. Actually, when I first saw it, I thought it was like a version of Magneto, but I think I'm mistaken. So knowing about the character, maybe not the history of the character, but knowing about the character, the references, the things that happen around him, will make the sculpt more compelling. So we're not going to be only analyzing Leandro's work, but also we're going to be analyzing how it could be improved and have more fidelity to the character he's representing. Also, something that is kind of difficult when you're starting is realizing that you can actually get a lot of information that will make your product better. One starts with a project and maybe has something that excites us, for example, maybe the arm or maybe the effects or something like that, or the anatomy, but we have to keep in mind that in the end we're doing a complete piece, so we have to analyze several areas of the things we are going to sculpt. So let's start with a review. First and foremost, I want to thank Leandro for giving me the opportunity of reviewing his work, but also I want to congratulate him, because not only he has improved a lot in the time that we have been speaking, but also the piece is fantastic. Like I mentioned, it's nearly finished, but there are small things that can be improved. Right out of the bat, I can say that the pose is very interesting, very striking. I see a couple of issues regarding anatomy, so we're going to start with that. We're going to go over them like really quickly to see, and then we're going to see if there is a way to easily fix it, or if it's going to have to do a lot of work. First and foremost, I think the pose is great. I think that maybe he would need to think how this is going to be displayed. And generally, one of the most important parts of the character is his face. There may be other points, but his face is very important. So if you, for example, are going to display this like this, or in the front, or maybe on the side, you can't have this hand here. You can't have it in the front. So what you would do is move this hand there. Let's see if easily I can do it like that. Of course, it's going to be in the middle. Fortunately, everything is separated in subtools. Okay, well, we're going to leave that there, but you understand. It would be cool to have it like that. I know it's not as an striking pose, but I think this is it's already a big improvement just on the silhouette. Another thing that could be done is to hide the armor that he has on his shoulders and see how the silhouette works. And I would work a bit on the silhouette. For example, looking at it like this, I would make the armor look more dynamic, like anatomically correct. I would move these plates out a bit to give him a bit of a belly. I love this muscle here. It's very pumped, and it's perfectly done. I think the connection between the shoulders and the head, it's great. Making the head this size is fantastic. I'm remarking everything of this because I couldn't find a specific reference in which this character that Leandro did looks like this character. So I think he has done an incredible free interpretation. So I think that's commendable. The other thing about the anatomy is I would look into the this is fantastic. I would look into making this leg a bit more heavy. So I would maybe turn the tip of the feet, of the foot. I would also make this armor the same, like try to have symmetry among the armor. The same here. Like even these panels here, I would try to make them follow the anatomy. Yeah. Let's see. Like for example, we have this here, and you would have this here. So for example, we would need a big patch of this one, of this material. We will need it to run along this area. I would also make this smaller. There. I would also have some of these patches, like I would make the whole leg made of these patches. On top of this grainy texture, I would make the texture a bit bigger. Yeah, I would scale it up. I would create the patches and then I would put the geometry on top, this type of armor. I like where this is going. I would move this arm a bit, I would turn it a bit to the back, and I would do something with this hand, because right now this hand is looking a bit out of place with the pose. I think the anatomy is a bit off. I think this finger is a bit up, and I think the fingers are a bit small. Like I would do something to add some kind of let's see, where are the references here. See that generally this guy has big fingers. Like for example, it's a normal hand for a big dude, but also he has big fingers, big nails, and you did small nails, and the small nails break the big plate, big armor thing about this guy. I think the detail is fantastic, but I would do I would add on top of this guy maybe something that shows that he has big nails. Let's see if I can illustrate my point. So we will do this, we will do this. Something like this. I think this guy should have, maybe not that long, but this guy should have something like this. Because the idea is that he needs to feel powerful. He needs to feel like he has the grasp on the world. Actually, what I would do is also add, for example, a skull on this hand, like having a I don't know, an Avenger or X-Men or Wolverine or something like that skull here. That it's something that it's done. I think it's very cool. And or maybe a particle effect, like he has he's casting some kind of spell or something. I think this hand also should not only be doing this effect like, oh, I'm super powerful, but also have a version of a fist. So this area should be interchangeable. And the other part of the anatomy here, I think that although it's very striking, very dynamic, the pose I think is very exaggerated. Like the character, I think it would fall. Like I would exaggerate it a bit less. That's a problem because you will need to adjust everything. But there are many things that I would do differently here. So I think changing the pose firstly is the thing that would help greatly a lot. But at the same time, I like how exaggerated it is. So I don't think it's mandatory that the pose is changed. I think it adds a great value. But when you see it from the side, it's a lot. And the last point regarding anatomy, it's the leg. So right now we're following the chain of muscles that goes in this direction and is pointing here. Sorry, here it's pointing. Like I would do it on the side so you can see. There it's pointing in this direction, like the normal of the knee. It's pointing in this direction. And then when the leg continues, for some reason it turns. Yeah, the feet turns. So the normal is not longer pointing in this direction, but it's pointing in this direction. So you have a problem there, because generally where the knee is where the feet will go. It's a general rule. So when you turn it so much, generally the turn comes from this side, because generally the chain of bones doesn't turn on the knee, it turns on the thigh, because we have the anatomy to do that. You can turn the foot, but you can only turn the foot, not this armor. So I know it's to give variety to the sculpt, but in that case you need to also change the thigh to be more open. The thing is that you took kind of the right decision, because if you open the thigh, it would look very weird. So I think that the solution to this is very easy. Just turn the armor and the foot inwards a bit, like a lot. But let's see. Something like this.
Think about it right now.
It would also need to be turned and
Find yourself, no matter what kind of stuff is going on in your life.
have it like that. I think you should need to find a more secure pose for the character first. That's another thing. I noticed that many people jump into details, which is the fun part. but jump into details before having the main pose finalized. And that's a problem, because when you have to change stuff, it gets very complicated, because there are, as you can see, there are a lot of movable parts in this project. You can actually see here 342 subtools, and I know that he has bundled a lot of things, so it has even more detail. So my recommendation would be to get the pose great first and then jump into it. So you can actually see that in Daniel Bell's work, where he sometimes posts just the body of the character, just the anatomy, just the pose, and that itself, it's a great piece. It could be produced like that and it would be great. But then he posts or shares another shots of the character with the detail, with all the armor and such, because as the main step, anatomy and the pose is one of the most important, because it's the base for the work you're doing. So let's jump into details. So the first thing that strikes me about Leandro's work is that he has a very good understanding of the details that he has to add to make it look cool. But then I find things like this, like are undetailed, doesn't have any division and such. Like, he can create these fantastic pieces, but then I find this, and I don't know the specific reason, but that is something that should be worked on. So let's tackle each area. Regarding detail, I think when you're having armor, this cannot exist unless you're going for this on purpose. Like, for example, he has the knowledge to know that these are plates, like they have a very hard edge, yeah, and a very thick one for being a plate. This is what you want when you're doing armor, or when you're doing robots. It's pretty much like it's a liquid. It doesn't have an edge. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to go back. I'm sure that he has some version in which he can actually go back. But these plates should be redone in a sense, and then this type of detail with a simple damp standard, or maybe a chisel, I don't know, because it's very wrecked, doesn't look that much good. Actually, the panels never go outside like this. What they do is, let's grab the best brush ever, that is chisel. I don't know why it always does that, but here we are. I need to separate this area. Here you can see that there was an attempt to a panel loop, which would have been great. The problem that he had is that in some areas the panel loop became bigger, and in others it was smaller. That's why you need a perfect geometry for when you're doing panel loops, or having a very dense geometry and then doing the panel loops. Let's see if I can separate this. No, it seems that it's a whole geometry. Like, it's all made, it's all done from the same geometry. I suggest you separate these areas here. There are many ways that this could be improved, but the main one is to redo it, unfortunately. So I will divide it, and let's see. The panel loops would do this with a very hard edge, because remember, this is metal, so you would have this. Oh, doing it over the detail doesn't help. Here you would do this. Yeah, so you have this very hard metal, this very hard edges, because remember what you're doing. Here you're doing panels, Yeah, this technique. It's kind of called panel loops, which comes also from the type of work that's done here in Zbrush. Remember that you're doing something that is removable, that has been built. So for example, it wouldn't be weird to not only have this, but also have a small version of this, like this. If it was medieval, you would have these small nails there, but since it's sci-fi, you don't see any nails. That's the cool stuff. Maybe what you can also do is where you have the panel loop, you can actually either move this out, or move this in. So that's another layer that you can create of detail. So for example, you could create a detail that goes like this, another like this, and you can play with the altitudes of things. That's something you could do. Here I found that I think he has this texture that it's not applied. Be careful that the texture feels stretched, yeah? So I would try maybe to adjust it so it's more even, more like a square shape. Here you can take a look at the anatomy. I think it's very dynamic, very great. In this area specifically, I think it's kind of a lot. This is a bit more subtle, so subtly sometimes is good. So this will go like this, which, since he's doing superheroes and stuff regarding Marvel versus Capcom, it's not bad, but this is a lot. Like, it should be maybe more like this. Remember, these are muscles and are building on top of the bone. Yeah, some subtleties like this. I think that's all right. I think you should divide this again and apply the texture again, because right now it doesn't have the necessary depth. It may be good for a render, but I'm sure you will want to 3D print this, so you will need a bit more depth in the detail. Here we can notice what I mentioned before about the repeating patterns of the things that we apply in our work. Like, for example, here we can notice this damn standard edge. Yeah, here too. And we can notice that this is not divided, this is not divided, so it's a pattern. It's something that repeats itself. Actually, something that I noticed that many people do is that they not divide this kind of stuff, or don't give enough divides. Don't make the geometry dense enough. So I see here that he tried to subdivide this one, and I'm going to show you which would be a great way to subdivide this one. Okay, I will grab it as it is. Small time-lapse video. There. So now that the geometry is very much clean, I can actually start applying different polygroups. So when we do the dynamic subdivision, we can add the thickness like this, and then we can crease the polygroups. So we already see that this is looking much better. The problem with open polygroups like this is that we have not created different polygroups for this, because this actually doesn't exist. So what we would first need to do is increase polygroups, and we could do add panel loops like this, which seems to work just fine, or we could apply the dynamic and just do the same but different. I think that the best route is just applying without subdivisions the thickness that it's adding to our sculpt. So here we will have an issue that we will have to close. Generally what you do is create this geometry without the upper thing, this upper step. And then you add it later. So right now we're going just to ignore it, but you can notice here that we have different polygroups. So we're going to apply it, and then we're going to make everything the same polygroup and start doing our thing. So I think that would be enough. Let's see, crease polygroup, and you can see that we have some nice details here. We may need to add another polygroup here. Let's try it out. Yeah. So this looks clean. I forgot to add one here. There. So you can see that this looks great on the character, and then once this is done, you can actually subdivide it several times and add some panel loops like this and stuff like that. But for that you should see a Marco Portoflio video. So up to this point I have been going very deep into explaining how stuff could be better. Right now I will just go over everything that I can and point out things that could be done differently. So here you have this area that would need more detail and subdivision. Same with this area. Like I think it would benefit from having like a cut like this, and these ends being sharp. I think they should be more square. Yeah, because these are representing ribs and muscles, so it doesn't kind of work that they are sharp. Same with these muscles of the knee, they should be more dynamic, have more detail. I think this idea is good because it's following the muscle, but at the same time I would look into creating better kind of details, right? For that I suggest Marco Portoflio's video from Chaos Maxon. They are great for sci-fi stuff. As I mentioned, generally when you have characters that are more leaning to sci-fi, you don't have this kind of details, yeah, unless it's a rudimentary armor, like for example the Mark 1, the Iron Man's armor. I think this is great. I would add maybe a bit more plates underneath this, maybe one or two, like for example here or here, because right now this looks that this guy's feet is big like this, and he just has like a sock, and on top of the sock he has armor. so it doesn't look good. He should have some kind of boot underneath. If you see in the concept art, the guy, all his body looks like armor. It's shiny like armor. So they are suggesting that he has armor everywhere, not just like cloth. I think the boots are amazing. Maybe the detail is a bit much here. I would go for something more simplistic. Here you have the problem of a not defined edge. I think here you try to fix it with trim dynamic, but I suggest you go for this kind of edge with this looks fantastic. I think the knee, since it's a very important point on the character, would need to be a bit more polished, yeah, and have a better silhouette. And I also noticed that the character has another one, like he has two of this, so keep that in mind. Like it should be something like this, and I think I was going to say they are thicker, but it doesn't seem to be the issue. The problem is not that they are thicker, but I think it has like a kind of ridge here that makes it look different to what you have. Also, what I noticed is that the curvature that this has, I will remove this one because this is not the one that you did. The interesting part about the knee is that the knee armor flows into this, like it's on the other side too, like this. And on the lower side it has this thing in which it can connect more in the middle, not the other way around, because right now here what you're doing is cutting the flow of the knee here. Same details here with panel loops. I think you see this looks much better. I would make them deeper. I would add more edge to this area here. I would add a little shoulder, not a little shoulder, but a bit more shoulder to the character on the back. I know it's not going to be seen by the armor, but it should have a bit more. Then you have the issue that I see what you did there. Later we're going to see that as part of the base he has some kind of snakes that they are very cool, but I see that you use this here, which, I mean, it's great, but it's unpolished. It doesn't have the subdivisions. This is just C modeler. So I think you should polish this. Think that this is attached to his spine, so it should almost look painful, and the armor here should account for the space this is taking, because this is not something that happened in battle. This is very deliberate. I would also ask why he has this, because it's a neat detail, but if it doesn't have a purpose, maybe take it out, because what it does, it's dirties the image of the character. The idea is that he's powerful and that everything that he has is solid. In Spanish is contundente, like I see a difference between the detail that you add to these areas and the detail that you have in the rest. Like everything should match. It should be balanced. Like if you have a lot of detail here, you have to have a lot of detail on the armor. And the problem with that is that it gets very heavy too soon, too quickly. So here I think there is a lot of space between the armor and the muscles. So either you push the armor out in, or you push the muscles out. I understand what you did here, because this looks good. This looks good on the shape, but this area here shouldn't exist. I shouldn't be able to see inside the armor, because in battle this is a liability. So Then I think it's this kind of tail. It looks very good. I haven't seen it in specific concept art. I think it looks great, but I would change it a bit to be more dynamic. Just a little bit. See that the curvature that it has now is much better. Also, I don't know how this attaches to the back. Like I would actually remove this detail here, the spine looking detail, and add this to the back of the character. Like I would destroy it right now. But this should be attached here, like this. Like it's part of the character. The problem you have with this is that it looks like the Scorpion from Spider-Man. So be careful with that. Since this looks kind of like a cosmic character, what I would do is have like segments of the tail removed and add some kind of particle effect in between. That would be cool. And also I noticed that here you had like a specific size of step that you were taking, and then you made it smaller. I don't know why that specifically, but I would add something here that signalizes that I'm changing the kind of detail that I'm doing. So for example, I would make this smaller. I didn't achieve it, but let's see if I only do extrude. There. Like there is a breakpoint here. Like the detail will be different from now on, because if not, it just looks like an oversight. If I haven't seen the complete piece, I would say that this base looks very unfinished. But since I have seen the complete work, this is fine. The only thing is that this kind of base doesn't match the character, because you have the issue that this character is, as I mentioned, it's like a Galactus. It's like a character that travels between worlds and destroys everything, because that's what they do. And this looks very much mechanical, very much industrial. It reminds me of I think it was Endgame or one of those Marvel movies in which aliens are attacking the Earth and you see the big bad worm that is flying through the sky, and it's very mechanical. You can see the engines inside. It's very Transformers like, and I think for the X-Men it doesn't work in that sense. If you were doing Transformers, the language is excellent, it's exactly what you need, but you are doing something that it's generally very polished, very minimalistic, and that it's full of shadows and details, but because of the paintwork or because of the shines, not because of the details themselves. The details are added in the collectible world to make it more interesting, because if not, you will have a dude in spandex standing there in your living room. So I added the shoulder armor and it looks much better. It has more balance, it looks good, but I think you have the same problems that we mentioned earlier apply too. You have here these kind of edges that are broken. You have this kind of detail that is not enough for the amount of surface that you have here. So that's something to consider. Also, I don't think he's doing this for collectibles. I think he's just doing this for portfolio and a render. So this shouldn't work for 3D printing. Like, he's not thinking about that, because when you're thinking about that, you sculpt differently. So I don't think that I should be mentioning things that should be fixed for 3D printing, because I don't think it's his aim. I think this is just a render, and that's cool. The face. I have a problem with the face, because right now the character has like a texture, like he has like a ski mask. He looks like Deadpool. The anatomy, the face, everything is excellent, but he has texture. So it makes us think that he has some kind of cloth that it's perfectly adapted to his face. So since that doesn't happen, I'm seeing a guy that has skin problem. And this guy is powerful. He shouldn't look like this. I shouldn't be thinking about him like he has problems. This is okay. I think this makes it look a bit convoluted here. I think it makes him look like a lizard or like an insect, and I think it's not the specific look that we are aiming for him. Actually, generally, what you see about this character's face is that it's all black. So, oh man, you did the whole head. Yeah, I understand you want to use it, but I think it would be... I think it looks better without you doing anything there. I actually would keep him dark. In fact, I would even go as remove some of the detail. I know you already posted and I know it's already finished, but like I would do this. Suggest that he has a face. Like a smug look. Suggest that he has a face, and it will look much better. The thing here is that I noticed in the concept art, not in the concept art, in the comics, that he also has other heads. So that would be cool to explore too for collectibles. He has like the Red Skull face, something like that. Then I may understand why you went with the insect route. He has like another version, like a bigger hulky version, like more insect-like. So maybe that's why you added the insect armor. If that's the case, I think it's a great nod to the other character. I was talking trash without any consideration for the other versions. If that's the case and it's on purpose, it looks great. I think they should need a bit more detail, like having panel loops and stuff like that. And I think it's very convoluted, but I think it works. The thing is, everything has... the head is so tiny that you don't actually pay much attention to it. So I would do a Red Skull version, and I would do like a Phantom no, like a Ghost Rider head, but cosmic head, Ghost Rider. That would be super insane. So lastly, I think we should see the full piece, which looks even better. So going through the files, I noticed that there was a folder that I didn't turn on, and I found this, and I think it's amazing. It looks incredible. I mean, it has the issues that we already mentioned. It's expectable. Expected. It's expected. But I think it looks very good. I think it looks organic. That's an issue, because this guy is full robotic and then you have this that is organic. It doesn't make sense. I think this looks fantastic like this, but then if you, for example, wanted to do... the brush is very small. If you wanted to do something like this, like it's a cape, and then you change the arm to be like in a position of power of go, like he's commanding it to attack, like it's like a different entity, it would look very good. But you would need of course to make a cut here in the arm, which is something that we can explore. I think this thing looks cool. I think it's going in a different direction. Like it's going this direction and the character is going in this direction. So
find yourself. No
what I
matter
would
what kind
do
of stuff is
is
going on in your life,
change this to go like this,
underneath it all, everything's actually all right.
and it makes a difference.
You're okay.
I also noticed that some things get deformed when you pose them. So for example, this should be a bit more have more like an oval shape, like this. These kind of details shouldn't be modified. Like you should just place them there and add everything around them. And if maybe those details don't conform to what you need done, maybe you need to change the details. But I really like that this is kind of a nod to the other character, to the other version of this character. So this is the final statue. I think it looks good. But here is a part missing. Like there's something missing here. I don't know if this part doesn't go there, or if you use this part to sculpt it and then you positioned everything. I think it's missing here, but I think aside from this, this looks good. I think this works here to add balance to the figure, and if you added this cape, it would be much more balanced. So I think it's great. In fact, what I would do is move, well, it's in different parts, but I would move this worm here. Like I would do this here, so like it's watching over his shoulder. So let's see details about this. I think the character and the base look very different styles, like Transformers and X-Men. X-Men and Marvel are very polished, are very detail-y, very sci-fi, and this looks like Transformers because it looks like scraps. It looks like a robot from the inside. You can see the engines moving, and I don't think that's something that matches with that kind of sci-fi. One looks like Wasteland, the other looks like Cosmic. So in this scenario, the first time I saw this, I thought it was Magneto, because he was moving, I don't know, random stuff, I don't know, engine from a plane, and making everything like a huge worm and using it to defeat the X-Men, which is super cool, but it's not the characters that we have in play here. So I will put this back. Something that I mentioned to Leandro is that these things, these petals here or teeth, are great, but it should be here, because right now this doesn't look menacing, and you want this to look the menacing part, not this one. I don't know if you remember the Octopus movie, the one that Scott McGuire, the Spider-Man movie, that the tentacles had personality of their own. That was the issue, that their AI was like a different entity altogether. So I think these guys should give kind of the same vibe. They should have like a red eye, or 2 red eyes, something like that, or 3. To signify that they are conscious in a way, because that makes them more dangerous. Because if they are conscious, it means that they are following him, but there may be a point in which they are more dangerous than him. That's a scary thing. Imagine this guy being as powerful as he is, and even in that case, he chooses to have this attack you. So imagine the power that this has. I think if you added some kind of, I don't know, teeth or grinding mechanism, like you, for example, made this exactly as you have it, but then you add like a ridge here that continues all over here, and have more teeth like they are turning. Like it's, if it falls on you, it not only falls, but it grinds you. I don't know, things to consider. I think a good example of this would be the machines to create holes in the floor. They're incredible for this kind of stuff. But let's take this as face value and review what we have here. I think that these cables are good, but right now they look like they are on purpose, and I don't think this kind of machine would be created on purpose. So what I would do is make them thinner and make them be all over the place, like not in a specific area. Like you have cable that is connected to different parts, but those parts spread through the worm. So the cables may be elongated, maybe torn, but they are not specifically put to be in this specific way. Like you have this metal that looks like scrap, looks like trash, that has been reassembled into a worm, but then you have these specific details that look like it was deliberate. So if those details were deliberate, then the rest of the worm was deliberate. And I don't imagine this guy having some scientist create this kind of worm for him, having all that armor. Like that's the contrast that I see. Also, the shapes overlap into themselves, so it gets a very dirty feeling, like it's unfinished or not much thought has been put into it. So I will change that. I will add some kind of tubes and cables inside of the worm to fill in some of the space. I think the idea is great. I also noticed that when this is going downwards, it gets progressively thinner. So that's something to consider. If all these parts are the same as this one, it shouldn't get thinner. So keep that in mind. The same feedback applies to this, but I think the most important part is that you got the dynamics of the sculpture. Great, like they work. I think that's the most important part. Then the details, you can change them, that's no problem. But you made the piece look interesting, which is something very difficult. As a last detail, I saw the references and I saw that he's always covered in mayhem and destruction and all this kind of rubble around. So I would play into that. See here that this artist added like a base with mushrooms. Well, I don't understand that. But here you can see you have Magneto's helmet. You have, I think it's Xavier's helmet. But you can see that he's on rough terrain. That's something that you should consider. This character is always creating destruction where he goes. So you should add some kind of escombros, we say in Argentina. Some kind of rubbles, rocks, stuff exploding, floating, smoke, fire. Yeah, that would be awesome. And lastly, let's explore a couple of the work that he has done to see if this pattern of details repeats itself. Like I noticed that he's very good at what he does, but the feel that it gives me is that he considers the work finished very early. So for example, the anatomy, the head, the armor, like he went through all the pain of creating the whole figure, but when he had to polish it, he considered the piece finished. Here we can see that he created stuff for painting, so he knows. Like the anatomy, it's perfect, it's great. The pose, everything. The expression, but I think when the time to polish comes, I think he shies away from it. He may not know how to do it, he may not want to put the work into it. This is not my main account, like this is Microsoft Dash. So for example, I think Morrigan is one of his latest works, or maybe Onslaught. yeah, Onslaught is the latest work. Here you can see that he put much more but time into it, because everything is much more polished. You have these fake smokes, like he wants to tell a story here. It's not like, oh, I created Morrigan and that's it. He put the intent to see what he could do to improve. I think this one is much better from the Uruk-hai that we saw a minute earlier. This Predator is great, but it's not great because of the sculpting. It's great because of the shapes, and that's something we have to consider, because he created everything perfectly, but in the moment of detailing he shied away from it. You see that in 3D printing it looks amazing, because 3D printing, the magic that it does is that you don't see all the specific details with crisp attention to it. But we do that in 3D in the digital realm, in the computer. So we have to keep that in mind. The 3D print looks amazing. Like, if he's going to work just for this, I don't see why he would think he would need to improve or armor detail, because right now this looks amazing. But if he was going to do a collectible, I don't know, 1/6 or 1/12, or I don't know, a big statue, he would need more detail. This one is, I think it's perfect. I think it could have some more polished, but you can always have more polish. I think this for what it is great. In fact, I think in this point he used less C modeler than in other characters, and I think that was better for him, because when he does C modeler he may forget that he has to add details. I think the axe is the only thing that was done in C modeler, and it looks good. I think since it was the only thing that he had to do, he didn't forget. But this, for minis or a small sculpture, it's fantastic. Let's see if he has. This shot looks amazing. It's fantastic. We discussed this spawn. I think it looks great. I think his waist could be a bit thinner, and I think the cuts should be in other areas. And the only thing that I mentioned here was that the texture, it makes it feel dirty, not hurt. Not that he has been, I don't know, in the barbecue of hell. But I think it's a great figure. I think the only thing that kind of bothered me was the render in all his work. I think he could put a bit more effort into that, and because I don't know, it looks washed. It doesn't make the details that he creates pop up. Here we can see that these polygons have not been smooth. Another part of the pattern, but overall, these shots are fantastic. Yeah, this is great. This should be up in the post. Yeah, and lastly, the Onslaught. See here that this character is around rough terrain, so that's something to consider. Here you can see that he went the route of the insect, and it looks great. I think this one has some of the problems that the new one that he's doing, but you can see the improvement that he did through his work. I think the thickness of the armor shouldn't vary, and the details, these areas should have more detail. Here you can see that the edges are smoothed, but the pose, the idea, the execution in general, it's a 70%, 80% finish. I think that 20% is what makes the difference, as I said earlier. I think the effect could be Dynamesh and smoothed out, but I think it looks good. Here it looks very much organic. It reminds me actually of like a labyrinth kind of art style, and I think the rock could be worked on to look more like actual rock or a rock structure, this doesn't make sense. Like maybe here he could have his arm hanging like a gorilla and grabbing a stone or grabbing an alien skull or something, or a part of a ship or something like that. That would be cool. But yeah, I think his work is great. So yeah, I want to thank Leandro for giving me the opportunity to review his portfolio, his work. So that was everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had fun doing it. Please visit my website where you can find my courses on how to create action figures and how to learn how to sculpt. Not only sculpt, but learn how to. You can also visit my webpage for mentorships. You can find all the information down below. And if you want to have your work and portfolio reviewed, please send it to the email that you can find also in the comment box down below. That has been everything for this video, and see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.